All praise to the Most High. Shalom, Israel. Good morning. Happy prep day. Later on will be the Sabbath. It's 10:25. Early in the morning. We're coming back with every Friday reading from the Maccabees, man. So we already have chapter 1 and 2 on the channel. If you missed it, we got right there in the playlist under the series, man. We got you know we got it right under there for you if you missed it. So we're going to come back with chapter 3. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this thing. We're going to waste no time. Sit back, relax, you know what I'm saying, and learn wisdom, man. That's all Solomon kept stressing when he was writing these epistles, not epistles, these writings, man. Learning wisdom, man. This is First Maccabees chapter 3. I'm gonna start verse 1. It says, then his son Judas, called Maccabees, right, the hammer, rose up in his stead, and it says, and all his brethren helped him, and so did all they that held with his father, and they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. So he gat his people great honor, and put on a breastplate as a giant, and girt his warlike harness about him, and he made battles protecting the host of his sword, right? Got to get a quick precept, man, because the Maccabees have a good name. You know what I'm saying? Something that we all strive to have, when we're long gone, having a good name, that was a sincere brother, that was a good, sister, and even with the Most High, man, we value that over anything, man. It says Ecclesiastes 7:1. It says a good name is better than precious ointment. So Judas and his father's house, Simon, John, Mattathias, all these men, have a good name because of what they did for the Israelites, our forefathers. It says, and the day of death than the day of one's birth, right? And when you die, it's better than the day you were born, man, because, on a spiritual level, we're born into a body that's subject to sin. We're born into a flesh, so the day of death, being present with the Lord, like Paul said, whether either present or dead, absent or present, that we be accepted of him, man. So, hey, all praise to the Most High. We'll actually leave this tab open just in case we need to come back to another verse. It says, and all his brethren, okay, we already read it. So chapter 3, verse 3 now. So he gat his people great honor, and put on a breastplate as a giant, and girt his warlike harness about him, and he made battles protecting the host with his sword, right? And his axe, he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp roaring for his prey, right? Because our forefathers, man, put their life on the line to help Israel, man. This is in the time of the Greeks, when our people were being Hellenized, man. And sadly, you had a lot of our people like today, that forsook the covenant, and actually, started living like Greeks, so, we pray for these people continually, man, because it's like, we try to do like Paul did, and wake these Gentiles up, these Israelites, these Jews, up from that deep sleep, man. Wake up the house of Israel, man. Same thing like Paul said, man. We just, trying to remind the brethren of the acts that happened to them. And Paul was, Paul would you can say the same thing about Paul. Paul was dedicated to the ministry of Hamashiach, the mission of waking up the Gentiles, which meaning Israelites that's living like, heathens, because it's very contradicting to say that Paul is writing to Gentiles when throughout the Old Testament, there's a lot of prophecies that say that God is going to punish the nations for what they did to his chosen people, and it's very contradicting, and it's very, a lot of seducing spirits out here that try to, get people to go off and, believe lies and heresies, man. Let's get back to it. It says for he pursued the wicked and sought them out and burnt up those that vexed his people, right? Brother was simply keeping the law. At that time, you got put to death. Now you have grace to repent. It says, wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled, because salvation prospered in his hand, right? Salvation is being, set free from the enemy. Let's get that in Wisdom of Solomon. Let's get this in Wisdom of Solomon, because people think that salvation is just a worldwide, and salvation has been here multiple times. But the ultimate salvation is going to come through Hamashiach Yahushua, or who the world calls Jesus Christ, for his people, man. I want to get this at Wisdom of Solomon real quick, though. Let's see. It's 18. Let's see. 1824. Let's get Wisdom of Solomon 1824, because salvation has been here multiple times. The Lord sent multiple times different saviors to free his people from captivity, right? Oh, never mind, it's the wrong one. It's a good precept, though, right? It's a good precept. Let's get this real quick. Let's get this real quick. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 18. I knew it was in 18. Let's get verse 7. Matter of fact, let's start up a little bit. Let's go back. See what verse 5 say. Yeah, let's get this. And when they had determined to slay the babes of the saints, one child being cast forth and saved to reprove them, right? This is going into Moses in the book of Exodus. Thou tookest away the multitude of their children, right? And destroys them all together in a mighty water, right? So Solomon, is giving us a breakdown of the book of Exodus, So if anybody wants to learn wisdom, man, listen real quick. It says, of that night were our fathers certified afore, that assuredly, knowing unto what oaths they had given credits, they might afterwards be of good cheer, right? Let's keep going. It says, so thy people was accepted, both the salvation of the righteous and destruction of the enemies, right? So that was salvation. When the Israelites were freed from captivity under Egypt, under Pharaoh, that was salvation. That the Israelites were saved and that their enemies were destroyed at that moment. We are in Egypt today, in America, under a new Pharaoh, which is Donald Trump. Or if he's not the leader at that time, whoever it may be, but it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the salvation of Israel being saved. And also it's going to be nuclear fire coming right to, this place, So we accept that, man. We accept the salvation of Israel and the destruction of our enemies, man. These are the things that we're patiently waiting on, is the Most High to punish our oppressors, man. Like we said, we don't hate no Gentile. We don't hold, no hate, because we understand that, number one, we wouldn't be in this predicament if our fathers listen. And then as we're their descendants, if we just simply listen to the Most High as well, we wouldn't be in this predicament. So, we just leave all judgment to the Lord, because he's the one that's righteous enough to punish anybody. Let me get this real quick. In Sirach. Let's get this Sirach 8. Nah, that's not Sirach 8, but this is a good one. Let me read it real quick. This is a good one, though. Goes kind of on topic. It says, Sirach 8:5, it says, reproach not a man that turneth from sin, right? So if you see a brother or sister that's just new coming in the truth, that's trying to turn from sin, hey, don't reproach that brother, man. Give him grace, man. Give that sister grace. But remember that we are all worthy of punishment, right? We're all worthy of punishment. Every single last Israelite is worthy of punishment, man. You got to think about that. We all forsook the covenant. We have all walked in perverse ways, living in some uncleanness, some ungodliness, man. So, I leave all judgment to the Lord, because he's the perfect one that can actually recompense a man, right? Let's get this Sirach 11, verse 26. Let's get this. Sirach 11, verse 26. It says, for it is an easy thing unto the Lord in the day of death to reward a man according to his ways, right? The Lord can reward anybody for the ways that they lived on this earth. So we just leave all preeminence of that to Yahweh Shai, because when he comes back, he's going to bring the ultimate righteous judgment. So, just be at peace with these heathens, man, until the day that the Lord puts his righteous anger in you. If you make it, if you're in that number. But all praise to the Most High. Let's get back to it. It says he grieved also many kings and made Jacob glad with his acts, and his memorial is blessed forever, right? So having a good name, that's what it's going into, man. It says, moreover, he went through the cities of Judah, destroying the ungodly out of them, turning away wrath from Israel, right? Because, constantly throughout the Bible, when you read Numbers 25, Judges, I think the 10th chapter, just different times where our forefathers were forsaking the covenant, that, it always wrath came behind it, especially like Numbers 25, when I think, was it Zimri, that was his name, or forgot what that brother name was. I'm look it up real quick. See Numbers 25. Who was the Israelite killed? Yeah, Zimri, yeah. All praise. Zimri, yeah. So Zimri was the one that faced, the judgment because of, doing that, man. Many of our forefathers, constantly throughout time, man. So, hey, all praises. So that he was renowned unto the utmost part of the earth, and he received unto him such as were ready to perish, right? It says, then Apollonius gathered the Gentiles together, a great host of Samaria, to fight against Israel, right? Because you got to understand history that, the northern kingdom got deported, out of Samaria, and Shalmaneser put, Gentiles in the land, so I don't want nobody getting confused when it says Samaria that they think is northern kingdom. No, it's Gentiles were in the land at that time, right? To fight against Israel, right? Let's keep going. It says, which thing when Judas perceived, he went forth to meet him, and so he smote him and slew him, and many also fell down slain, but the rest fled, right? We come from mighty men of war. We don't come from men that tuck their tails and just run, It says, wherefore Judas took their spoils, and Apollonius sword also. Therewith he fought all his life long, right? This man, Judas, done took that man's sword. Think about that. Think about that. Jake think since he just, killed his own brother and then took his gun, he thinks that's cool. But we're not encouraging people to do it. But, we never seen a Jake, do something to another nation and brag about it. Our forefathers, man, they used to put these heathens to flight, man. So I know that they were happy when they seen our destruction, man, come upon us, man. So when Saron, a prince of the army of Syria, heard say that Judas had gathered unto him a multitude and company of the faithful to go out with him to war, right? Let's keep going. He said, I will get me a name and honor in the kingdom, for I will fight with Judas and them that are with him, who despise the king's commandment, right? Let's keep going. It says, so he made him ready to go up, and there went with him a mighty host of the ungodly to help him, to be avenged of the children of Israel. It says, and when he came near to going up of Bethoron, Judas went forth to meet him with a small company. It says, who, when they saw the host coming to meet them, said unto Judas, how shall we be able, being so few, to fight against so great a multitude and so strong, seeing we are ready to faint with fasting all this day? Right? It says, unto Judas answered, whom Judas answered, it is no hard thing for many to be shut up in the hands of a few, and with the God of heaven It is all one to deliver with a great multitude or a small company, right? We've seen this with Gideon. Let's get an example of Gideon. Let's see how many men. Let's get a breakdown real quick. If Google can get us a quick breakdown, because I don't want to go into Judges and read it all verbatim. Let's see. Right, let's get this real quick. Let's get some information. Right, so Gideon started with an initially of 32,000 men. It says that the Lord told him this was too many, as God wanted to prove the victory was his rather than by Israel's own strength. The men were whittled down in 2 steps, right? It says, after Gideon instructed everyone who was fearful or trembling to go home, leaving 10,000, 300 remained after God had the men drink from a stream. God told Gideon to keep only the men who lapped the water with their hands, while sending home those who got down on their knees to drink, right? So think about this. So the Lord at first saw 32,000. He was like, that I can't let y'all do that, because then y'all think it's by y'all on strength. So he told Gideon to let everybody go home that was fearful and trembling. That left 22,000. Then after that, it was only 300. Think about it. So it's not that hard for the Most High to deliver, the enemy into our hands. We seen it with King Hezekiah. When he prayed, against Sennacherib, think about this. He prayed against Sennacherib, and one angel struck down 185,000 men. Think about that. That's something to think about. It says, let's keep going. Verse 19. It says, for the victory of battle standeth not in the multitude of an host, but strength coming from heaven, right? So when we're out there street teaching, always realize this. The victory doesn't come from, an host. How many people's out there pulling precepts? No. The victory comes from heaven when the Most High Spirit is among us, right? Let's get an example in Ecclesiastes. So I said I was going to leave it open because I wanted to get a precept out of there. Let's get Ecclesiastes 7. Let's get verse 18. Right, it's Ecclesiastes 7 to 18. Was it Ecclesiastes? Oh, 9. Chapter 9, verse 18. Salakia. Let's get 9. Let's get verse 18. That 9 and 18. I think it is, but I think it's in another translation. Let me see what NLT say. Let's see what it say. Ecclesiastes 9:18. It says, better to have wisdom than weapons of war. Right? So the Bible says it's better to have wisdom than weapons of war, man. Because it says that wisdom is going to save your life. It didn't say, don't get me wrong. We have our weapons, We have our weapons, So we're not telling nobody not to have one, but we're saying don't put your trust in it, Don't put your trust in your 9mm pistol, your AR-15, your micro Drake. All that can, jam in the manner of a second, But time, any place, victory always comes from the Most High. It says, but one sinner can destroy much that is good, right? One sinner can destroy much that is good. It is computers lag for some reason. It's like you. Like you, man. We gotta say Look how he tried to stop. Look how Satan tried to stop stuff. All right, let's keep going. It says they come against us in much pride and iniquity to destroy us and our wives and children and to spoil us. Think about that. When these people devise iniquity upon their bed, the Most High sees these things. The Most High eyes are everywhere. The Most High can see every single thing. You know what I'm saying? So, the Most High is not going to let nobody that's working iniquity. Look, I got to get this real quick. Because the Most High is not going to allow, people that work iniquity to prosper, man. Work in sin. Let's get this in, I think it's Proverbs. Let me see. We know what it says in Micah, but let's get this in Proverbs. Let me get actually 2 precepts out of Proverbs. Let's get Proverbs. Let's get 14 real quick. It's verse 22. It's Proverbs 14:22. Yeah, let's get this real quick. All right, this Proverbs 14:22. It says, "Do they not err that devise evil?" Right? Don't these people, when they come up with much pride and iniquity, destroy us? Don't they err devising evil? But mercy and truth shall be to them that devise good, right? That's how Judas was prospering all his battles. Because guess what? This man was sincere. This man was actually trying to do much good for the Lord. Actually trying to encourage people to keep the covenant. But you got a lot of people that devise evil, man. And they're erring, not even realizing they're erring, man. Let's get chapter 15 now. Let's get Proverbs 15 now. And let's get verse number 26. All right. Let's get this. It's Proverbs 15:26. It says, "The thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Lord." So the Lord sees when people are devising iniquity, seeing these things, and it's an abomination to him. But the words of the pure are pleasant words, right? This man Judas, always spoke pleasant words to our people. Especially Simon, man, his brother. Look at this. But we fight for our lives and our laws. What you see the book of Proverbs just said? But the words of the pure are pleasant words. Isn't that pleasant words? Somebody telling you to keep God's commandments. Fight for the Lord and his laws. Anybody telling you to do the other thing, man, that's somebody that you don't need to be listening to. Somebody's telling you to go against the Most High and his commandments. That's somebody that you do not need to be listening to. That's the farthest person you need to be listening to, right? It says, "Wherefore the Lord himself will overthrow them before our face. And as for you, be ye not afraid of them," right? We don't fear man. Let's get this in Psalms real quick. We don't fear men, what man can do. All a man, like the Messiah said, can do is just kill the body. That's it. What about the spirit? You need to be worried about the man that sits on the other part of the realm. We need to really be fearing him. Revelation 4, man, that's a good chapter, man. If you need some the fear of the Lord, man, read that. Psalms 18:6, it says, "The Lord is on my side, I will not fear. What can man do unto me?" David literally wrote this through the Spirit. David said, "Yahweh is on my side, I will not fear." The first thing you need to do and realize is that the Most High Yahweh was always on our side. Why are you fearful? How many times Yahweh had to tell the people, our forefathers, and also the disciples, why are you so fearful? Do you not realize the Lord is on our side? Like, why do you think Yahweh was always so confident to go around everywhere preaching, to stand in the synagogue where the chief priest and the Pharisees was? Because this man realized that the Lord was on his side. He will not fear. What can man do unto me? Yes, Yahweh did ask for the cup to pass from him if possible, but he said at the end of the day, "Father, let your will be done, not mine." So that lets you know that Yahweh still did the will of the Father. You know what I'm saying? All praises, man. So we're not afraid of these damn heathens, man. It says, "Now as soon as he had left off speaking, he leapt suddenly upon them. And so Saron and his host was overthrown before him," right? All praise. And they pursued them from the going down to Bethoron unto the plain, where were slain about 800 men of them, and the residue fled into the land of the Philistines, right? It says, then began the fear of Judas and his brethren, and exceeding great dread to fall upon the nations round about them, right? They hate when we're in order. First and foremost, it starts off with, the laws, being ordered with the commandments of God, that the Most High God, like he said in his law, I will put the fear of you on these nations, man. Insomuch as his fame came unto the king, and all nations talked of the battles of Judas, right? It says, now when King Antiochus heard these things, he was full of indignation. Wherefore he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army, right? He opened also his treasury, and gave his soldiers pay for a year, commanding them to be ready whensoever he need them, right? This Esau, man. Esau trusting, money, weapons of war to come against Jake. This is a perfect example. Esau always tries to have some type of plan to come against Jake, paying people, having all these different things. But like the Apostle Paul said, hey, our weapons are not carnal. We're not going to fight against this devil, with weapons of war. We're going to prophesy against them. We're going to prophesy the words of the Most High. It says, nevertheless, when he saw that the money of his treasures failed, and that the tributes in the country were small, because of the destination, I don't know why, and plague, which he had brought upon the land, and taken away the laws which had been of old time, right? So like it, can pronounce the word. First Maccabees 3:30, it says, he feared that he should not be able to bear the charges any longer, nor to have such gifts to give so liberally as he did before, for he had abounded above the kings that were before him, right? Same man that Daniel, was talking about, that would take away, the sacrifice. This same devil that, King Antiochus, man. It says, wherefore being greatly perplexed in mind, he determined to go into Persia, there to take the tributes of the countries and to gather much money. It's Esau going around, just going to somebody else's land, just stealing all their resources, man. So he left Lysias, a nobleman, and one of the blood royal, to oversee the affairs of the king from the river Euphrates unto the borders of Egypt, right? And to bring up his son Antiochus until he came again, right? It says, moreover, he delivered unto him half of his forces and the elephants, and gave him charge of all things, that he would have done also concerning them that dwelt in Judea and Jerusalem, right? To wit, that he should send an army against them to destroy and root out the strength of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem, and to take away the memorial from that place, right? They get always mad, so mad. You can tell they get so mad. They do anything just to get us out of our place, take away our memorial. We've seen this many times, man. And that he should place strangers in all their quarters and divide their land by lot. This is another example. Shalmaneser did it to the northern kingdom, 722 BCE. This man Antiochus was trying to do that to the southern kingdom, trying to take our land, divide it by lot, and give it to strangers. Now imagine that. The whole land of Israel, like today, is given by lot to Gentile nations that are not supposed to be there. Let's keep going. So the king took the half of the forces that remained, and departed from Antioch, his royal city, the 147th year, and having passed the river Euphrates, he went through the high countries, right? Then Lysias chose Ptolemy, the son of Dormenes, Nicanor, Gor, Gor, Gorgies, mighty men of the king's friends, and with them he sent 40,000 footmen and 7,000 horsemen to go into the land of Judah and to destroy it as the king commanded, right? Man wanted to see us fall, man. Why you can't be trusting these heathens, man? They plot, man. It says, so they went forth with all their power and came and pitched by Emmaus in the plain country, right? Let's keep going. And the merchants of the country hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold very much with servants, and came into the camp to buy the children of Israel for slaves. A power also of Syria and of the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto them, right? They try to buy us as slaves, man. Same thing. You know, with the auction block. Let's look this up. I think it was, yeah. All right, look at this. Hebrew, historically also spelled Igbo, Igbo, refers to the Igbo people of modern-day southeastern Nigeria. During the transatlantic slave trade, hundreds of thousands of Igbo were enslaved and forcibly shipped to the Americas, particularly to Jamaica, Virginia, Jamaica, and Belzai, right? So, hey, most of us might be Igbo, Nigerian, we know that we came from the western part of the world. Shout out to our people that are living in, Nigeria, the Igbo people, the Hebrews. Let's get this. See this? These are our people, man. Shout out to the Igbo people, man. I just wish they stopped wearing them yarmulkes and them kufis, man. Wish they stopped wearing that, man. Let's go back to it. Now when Judas and his brethren saw that miseries were multiplied, and that the forces did encamp themselves in their borders, for they knew how the king had given commandment to destroy the people and to utterly abolish them, right? This is Antiochus. He wanted us destroyed, man. It says, they said one to another, let us resort the decay for tomb of our people. Let us fight for our people in the sanctuary, right? It says, then was the congregation gathered together that they might be ready for battle and that they might pray and ask mercy and compassion, right? So when we go out there, to battle, spiritually on the streets, we always pray that the Lord shows praise and ask the Lord shows mercy and compassion, man. We need, spiritual battle against these people, man. You don't know what spirit somebody tries to come up in, man. Hate spirit, pride spirit, rebellious spirit, scoffing spirit, all these different spirits, man. We need to pray to always the Lord give us strength, because, man, that can get tiresome, man. I ain't gonna try to put a brother or his business out there, man, but we talk about this all the time, man. Dealing with these scoffers, man, it get aggravated, man. But we try to have patience like Christ, man, fruits of the spirit, man. It says, now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary also was trodden down, and aliens kept the strongholds. It says the heathen had their habitation in that place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp seized, man, right? So you got to think about how our land feels, spiritually, because think about that. And Second Ezra is the 10th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. You can read about how Zion felt through the spirit, how she was like a woman mourning her loss of her son. So, man, hey, ain't no telling how our land feels spiritually today, man. It says, wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Maspha, over against Jerusalem, for in Maspha was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel, right? Then they fasted that day, put on sackcloth, and cast ashes upon their heads, and rent their clothes, right? Let's keep going. And laid open the books of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images, right? That's why you got all them white images of everybody. Let me look up let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. Watch this. Let me give you an example. Let's look up King Solomon. This is what they depict King Solomon look like. They say he was a white man. Let's read songs. Let's read Song of Solomon, man. Let's read Song of Solomon. We're gonna read Song of Solomon, and then we're gonna go look at that picture. It says, Song of Solomon 1:1. The songs of songs, which is Solomon's. So the Song of Songs belong to Solomon, meaning Solomon wrote this. Let's see what Solomon looked like. I am black but comely. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Solomon just said he's black. Who is this? Who in the world is this? If Solomon just said he's black, who in the world is this? Who is this? Who is this European man? Solomon said, I'm black but comely. O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Let's see how dark Solomon was. Let's look that up. Kedar tent. That's a very dark tent. Think about that. Solomon said that he looked about this skin complexion, man. Look at you, brown melanated people. Don't your skin look like that? This is a perfect example. I love this right here. I love this picture. You know, this is pretty much what I depict Solomon looking like. You know, a very dark-skinned man and his wife, you know, the Shulamite, you know. I believe that they were very dark-skinned people, man. You know, so Solomon said that he was black. This is called iconoclasm, man. Look at this. Let's read it again. And laid open the books of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. It doesn't make sense that the Bible says that Solomon said he was black, and then I look on the internet and I see this. This doesn't make no sense. Look at this. Let's go back to it. Where's it at? Look not upon me because I am black, because the sun have looked upon me. Right when the sun looks upon us, we get a little darker, you know. The sun smiles upon us. The sun eats them up, man, alive. Why you think they put on that sunscreen that got the melanitation in it? You know, because they can't be out in the sun. They have to wear sunglasses everywhere they go. Jake, we do it because it's stylish, you know, even though we clearly don't need sunglasses. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keepers of the vineyards, but my own vineyard have I not kept, right? So Solomon said he was black. You know, Solomon said he was black. I know they were probably painting images of this, probably painting dang King David White, Samuel White, all these people in the so-called Old Testament. I know they were probably like, oh, this is their images. Oh, no, let's tear all this up and let's paint our images. Let's depict their forefathers to look like us. You know, let me give you another example. Putin. I know this pissed off a lot of Edomites when this man did that. Look at that. Why in the world would this man have a black image of Christ if who the world calls Jesus the Christ to be a white man? Why in the world does Putin have an image of a black Messiah? Look at that. Why does he got a picture of a black Messiah? These folks on the other part of the world know who the real Hebrew Israelites are. It's just when we're in this part of the world, this westernized mindset that our people need to let go. Truly, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven thinking like an American. You can't enter the kingdom of heaven still thinking like an American. You know, you have to be born again. You know, let's get this. Verse 49. They brought also the priest's garments, the first fruits, the tithes, and the Nazarites they stirred up, who had accomplished their days, right? They cried with a loud voice toward heaven, saying, what shall we do with these? Whither shall we carry them away? Right? Let's keep going. For thy sanctuary is trodden down and profane, thy priests are in heaviness and brought low. And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us to destroy us. What things they imagine against us, thou knowest. This is the same thing we read earlier. Let me get this. The eyes of the Lord are everywhere. It's in Proverbs. Right, Proverbs 15. All praises. The Lord sees every single thing that these damn Gentiles be trying to do. Oh, let me come up with a new sandwich. You know, maybe they'll eat if I put 4 extra slices of bacon on there. You know, maybe I might, change the law to where they have to come in Saturday. You know, different things the Lord has to be. He beholds. It says the eyes of the Most High are in every place. Don't get me wrong. The Lord's eyes is specifically on Jacob, but his eyes is also everywhere in the world, beholding all the ways of the sons of men, beholding the evil and the good. The Most High sees everything. He sees people doing good, and he also sees people doing evil. He sees his people trying to repent. He sees the nations trying to conspire a way to get his people to go and do evil. You know, everything go hand in hand. I got to read that again. And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us to destroy us. What things they imagine against us, thou knowest. The Most High already spoke by a prophet. Let's get this in Micah chapter 3. These demons do anything to try to get us in sin. You know? Let's get this Micah 3. We're going to start at verse 1. It says, it might be, is it 3? It might be 3 or 2 or 4. Let's see what 4. Oh, that's in the last days prophecy. Well, all nations gonna come learn. Yeah, right here. All praise. Micah 2 and 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. They covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage, right? That's all they wanted Jake to do. Stop keeping them commandments. Live like us. Stop living after the covenant. Live like a Greek, you know? Let's speed it up. Thousands of years later, all one nation under God, become an American. We're all God's people. That's the mindset that you need to watch out for. That's a seducing spirit. That's what Proverbs always talked about when it says a pernicious woman, man. A woman that's seducing, trying to seduce Jade to commit spiritual fornication, spiritual adultery by forsaking his God, man. It says, therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, against the family do I devise an evil, for from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall you go haughtily, for this time is evil, right? It's an evil time, man. We living in an evil time, man. Man. Lord, and then you got to think about this. For them people that be under the ground, you know who I'm talking about, that's hiding from Yahweh Shine, the one that sits on the throne, the Father. Think about this. The Lord sees exactly what they're trying to devise next to keep us in sin. That's why, man, it's all praise to the Most High, man. We need the God of heaven to help us, because we can't do this on a carnal level against Esau, man. How shall we be able to stand against them? Except thou, O God, be our help. That's our help. Not a 9mm pistol, not a micro Drake, not an AR-15, not an AK-47. Not none of these things, man. The Most High God is going to be our help. Let's get that. Isaiah 33. The Lord already said it. The Lord already said it. Yahweh Bashim Shah already said it, man. Let's get this. Isaiah 33 and 6. All praise to you. Yahweh Bashim Shah. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. You didn't see it says the weapons are the time. No, it said knowledge. You're going to beat these devils by wisdom, which is what? The commandments of God, and knowledge, which is the precepts constantly throughout the Bible. Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure, right? So real men and women of the Most High God, the real children of the Most High, is going to fight in these times with wisdom and knowledge. We're not going to pick up no gun and try to go out there and fight against Esau. We're not trying to fight against these nations with carnal things. We're going to pray to the Lord in heaven that he shorten these days, that we endure to the end, and Most High one, that he redeems his elect men, you know, because that's what we're waiting on. We're waiting on 144,000 to be sealed, man, so we can get the hell out of here, man. Then sounded they with trumpets and cried with a loud voice. See, our fathers, when they felt distress, they prayed and cried out to God. How much more of us? We need to cry out to God, man. After this, Judas ordained captains over the people, even captains over thousands, over hundreds, and over 50s, and over 10s, right? But as for such as were building houses, or had betrothed wives, or were planting vineyards, or were fearful, those he commanded that they should return every man to his own house according to the law, which meaning what? These people were under captivity to the Greeks, and they still kept the law. How much more of us? We make up any excuse to where we can't keep God's commandments. Oh, it's hard. I can't do this. I can't do that. Well, these folks were putting their lives on the line, man. Let's get this in Deuteronomy. Let's get this in Deuteronomy chapter 20. Judas and them were keeping the law even under the Greeks. We're under the Greeks still today. Think about that. We're under these same devils today, man. Deuteronomy 25, and the officers shall speak unto the people, saying, what man is there that have builded a new house and have not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle and another man dedicate it. And what man is he that have planted a vineyard and have not eaten of it? Let him also go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle and another man eat of it. And what man is there that have betrothed a wife and have not taken her? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle and another man take her. And the officers shall speak further unto the people, and they shall say, what man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return unto his house. Let his brethren's heart faint as well as his heart. Oh, lest his brethren's heart faint as well as his heart, right? You don't need no scary Negro out there, you know, trying to street teach. That'll put the spirit of fear on somebody else. Think about that. This brother all shaky and timid. That same spirit gonna hop on the next brother, man. You fearful, stay home till the Lord build your spirit up, then come back out there, man. It says, and it shall be when the officers have made an end of speaking unto the people, that they shall make captains of the armies to lead the people, right? So this is an example that our forefathers kept the commandments while under captivity. Judas literally told you the same thing that Deuteronomy 20 just said. Let's keep going. So they camped and removed and pitched upon the south side of Emmaus, right? And Judas said, arm yourselves and be valiant men, and see that ye be in readiness against the morning, that ye may fight with these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us and our sanctuary, right? It says, for it is better for us to die in battle than to behold the calamities of our people and our sanctuary. We got to be moving that same spirit, man. You should hate to see the fact that your people is destroyed, man. Nevertheless, as the will of God is in heaven, so let him do. And at the end of the day, it's always to the will of the Father, you know. And that's it on that, man. So, that was First Maccabees chapter 3. Lord willing, you got something from it? Because I did, man. I got a lot of good points from it. Most I won that it was edifying. If you missed it, please rewind. We already got chapter 2 and chapter 1. So most I won next Friday. We'll pick up on it. Coming back with another class tomorrow, Lord willing. Reacting to a video, man. So don't want to spoil it. You see us tomorrow, man. Join in. Learn some wisdom, man. But with that, we say, Kwame Ashala.